Hello, everybody. Welcome to Coding with Tom. Today, we are going to be adding a quantity label to our cells in the list. We'll also be creating a separate view that will be displayed modally with a grid inside. In that grid, we will have the products that we will be adding to our order. Let's start with the model. So as we did in our previous exercise, we're going to be adding a new entity to our model, which is going to be order product. Let's modify our order. And if you remember, we had a problem with the IDs of the products because we were adding multiple products and they were having the same ID. Now with order product, we're going to avoid this issue. Let's add also an ID here. And this is our order product. We have the same logic about having a total, and then we format that total. Now let's go to our scenes to modify the code to adapt to this new order product. Let's go to our order. Now in our order view model, we see that we're adding a random product. No, that cannot happen anymore. Just so we can build, let's add a random product. This will still multiply the number of products shown, but we won't have the ID issue. Here, let's change this for order product. And actually, the get view model, let's modify this view model in the product view to include the quantity. Now, let's get rid of this test for now. So now let's go to the service and use case part of this lesson. So we have our product service. So far, this is saying as is. We don't need anything else. But now we're going to have a service for our order. Now, from this service, I'm expecting three things. So far, this has been the same order service that we had in our previous UI kit lesson. But now we're going to have a third one. And for that, we're going to need the combine framework. Now this one is going to return any publisher. So I'm going to be using the order to get the status of the order, but I also want to get a publisher so that I can get notified of the changes that occur in the order, because now multiple views are going to be modifying this entity. Now for our order publisher, there are several publishers that we can use with Combine. Right now, I'm going to use a current value subject. What that does is, as soon as someone subscribes to the publisher, you get the current value, and then you will get notified about further updates to the object. For that, I need to create one. Now you need to specify the type that it's going to have. So it's going to have order, and I'm never expecting this to fade. This is something very important with Combine. You should never actually pass the current value subject. You should always erase to any publisher. When we save the order, this doesn't automatically push the changes. You actually have to notify the ones that subscribe to the publisher. So that's exactly what we do here. Order publisher.send, and we send the updated order. That's it for our service. To add the product now, we're going to use a use case. What a use case does is just, it uses different services, and then the teams can use the use case instead of knowing of the services. So they just call one use case and they expect something from it. For example, the use case that I'm going to create is add product. So the name already says it. I want to add a product, and the only thing I want to do is execute. And what I'm expecting from this use case is that when I pass a product, it adds it to the standing order. Now, I'm going to add the dependencies here, which are going to be the product, the order service, sorry, but we're going to start organizing now our dependencies. Instead of having them as variables going around, I'm going to create a struct called dependencies. Now, every class that uses dependencies will have this struct inside, so we can organize the dependencies. We also create a default initializer for our dependencies so that other people that instantiate us don't have to worry about this. Now here we're going to do something exactly the same as we did in our previous lesson. So we're going to look for the product in the standing order. If the product exists, then I'm going to increase the quantity of that product. If not, then I'm going to add the order product, a new order product. At the end, we just have to save the order. And that's it for our use case. Let's go to the scenes and modify them. We need to create our dependencies here. As you remember from our previous lesson, we need to have a shared instance for product service so that we don't create multiple instances of the products. Since we're going to be storing, we need those IDs to remain the same throughout the execution of the app. And the first thing is in our add product, we no longer need to do something here. So we just call our use case. And here, since we are mutating the order, we just have to save it. Now, we are going to have this order. This is going to be modified by other products in other scenes, sorry. And in this instance, when we add a product by the use case, the order mutates in that use case. We need to find out about that change here. So what we're going to do is, after setting everything up, we're going to subscribe always. And we need to import combines. So we need to listen for order changes. And here we'll use the publisher that we get from the order service. Now, a publisher gives you something to subscribe to listen for changes. And that's what we're going to do. So the subscriber that we're going to use for this is assign. So every time that the order changes, we're going to update our order. So we're going to update order on sell. Now this assign yields, if you see here, the return type of this is any cancelable. That's because you can cancel the subscription at any time. So we have to have a reference to this. And that's pretty much it. Let's try running. Not a product. And you will see that our use case is updating this, and we're getting the updated version. Now, still having added the quantity, but you can see that the director showed the value there changed, and we no longer have repeated values in our table. We can also still modify, mutate the order from the service. Nothing happens. There we go. And let's try deleting. Everything works. So let's first add the quantity to the product detail. Also, let's fix this. This is a mistake on my part where we have, well, you see that the title is quite displaced to the bottom. This is because right now there's two navigation views. So let's remove one from the product detail. Now let's go to our product view. And let's add the quantity label. Now let's also change the font of this, since that number, I don't want it to be the same size as the bench. So let's add a font, a title font. So that'll make the number a little bit bigger. There we go. Now you'll see that in our preview, we right now don't have the products. Now that's because right now in our order view model, we need to pass in the order service and actually give the real values. This is because it now has a struct of dependencies, but the benefit of having each of the dependencies referenced with the protocol and not with the class. So as in the order service, the type is order service and not order service adapter. We can use dependency injection to inject mock dependencies so we can see our previews without actually having to use the real implementation for those things. So in order to test, to see our preview without the need of actually having to add products to our order, we need to inject the mocked dependencies here. For that, let's create another group, mock, and let's create a mock data file. In here, for the mock data, I have already created a snippet. So here you will see we have First, the test order with just a bunch of order products, and we have different quantities since I want to test the quantity label that we just added. And we have our order view model dependencies because they all have a default value. When I'm mocking the data, I don't actually have to mock every single dependency. Now for this case, I'm just going to mock the order service since the product and add product dependencies are not going to belong to this scene by the end of this exercise. Now our test order service is just another class called test order service. And if you look here, this is the power of dependency injection. And this is why I have always referenced my use cases and services with a protocol, because you can make your own class, your own test classes, make them conform to the protocol, and then pass them on to the view model. You don't have to change anything in your source code. Your mock code just has to conform to the protocol. Now, the only difference here is that my test order service will begin with a default value for the order, and everything else regarding the implementation is pretty much the same. Now let's go to our order scene. And let's add here the test order view model dependencies. And there we have it. Now our preview includes our test data once again. Now let's go on to create our new view, the add product view, so that when we tap on this plus icon, a new view is displayed modally so that we can add the product there. Now that we have fixed our order view, let's move on to creating the view that we are going to display when we tap on the plus icon. We are also going to create a view model for this one. For this class, the dependencies are going to be the ones that are currently in order view model, the product service, and the add product. Now, the other method that we're going to have is necessary because these products, when we fetch them, we want to display them in a UI collection view, like in our UI kit exercise, which was like a grid that has 3 products per row. Now, sadly, in SwiftUI, in the first iteration for iOS 13, we don't have a grid, we just have lists. If you want to do a grid, you have to do it yourself with a mixture of VStack and HStack, which is exactly what we're going to do. But you have to tell the view which views are going on each row. So that's what we're going to do here. We're going to create a struct, which is going to be the row view model, and the only thing this is going to have is just products. So how many products go per row? And then we're going to calculate just how many rows we're going to have per section. Now, we are also going to have a function to return the number of products per row. And let's build our row view models. So what we did here is we just calculated the number of rows we're going to have by dividing the number of products by the number of rows. For each of those, we add a new row. And then if our number is not divisible by our number of, if the number of products if the total number of products we have is not divisible by the number of products per row, then the remainder we just add it to the last row, to a last row. And that is it. So let's go to our product view and let's start creating our grid. Now, first, I'm going to get the rows here. So for each, now for each of these, we're going to create a view. Let's add this truck here as another view. So it's just going to be a product cell. Now, if you'll notice, we have an uneven grid. We have these of different sizes. So let's improve our view. First of all, let's add a title for this one. So let's add a navigation title. And then what I want here is that each cell to be of the same size. So the text, that's already the same size for everything. The font determines that. But what I want is that the image of each of these is the same. And I want those images to be spread evenly here. So for that, I'm going to specify a frame for this. So we're going to have a width and a height. For this, I'm going to add a third parameter to my view, which is going to be image size. Now, what we are missing here is how we're going to give our image the size. How from SwiftUI do we know the size of our view and then pass them a value that will mean that each of them will occupy the same space? So for this, we're going to use another view called Geometry Reader. Now with geometry, we can know the width of the view. So what I did here was I asked the geometry for the width of the screen, and then I divided the number by the number of products per row that I get from my view model. This is why we created that method. It's gonna complain because this needs to be a CG float dividing another CG float. And the only reason I'm multiplying it by 0.9 is so that every cell gets some space in between. Also, because we put everything in geometry with these geometry parameters, this became a closure. So everything that we were doing, referencing things from outside, we need to add a self. Now let's try building and seeing how our preview looks. Now this looks better. However, we can improve this a little bit by adding the field variable now. We also have to add corner. Now let's work on the tap action. Our product cell needs to have a tap gesture. And the only thing we're going to do is call our view model to add the product. We also have to add a navigation bar button to cancel. So we want to do either with this view we want to add a product or we want to dismiss the view. Now to dismiss a modal presentation, what you do is you pass a boolean, and in the modal presentation you change the value of that boolean. You're going to see how we implement that in the order view, but for now let's just create this with a binding variable. And the only thing we do in our action is toggle it. Now our preview is going to complain, so that we will add that. Because it's a binding variable, you cannot just pass a boolean. You need to pass in a binding that wraps a boolean. To do that in our previous console, we just pass a dot constant. And now we have our cancel button. So that's it for this view. Now let's hook this up to our order view. Now to present a sheet, the only thing you need to do is add a binding boolean to know if the sheet is presented or not right now on the screen, and then the view that you're going to present with the sheet. Now let's create first these binding variables. So this will be a state variable that this view will own. And to be a boolean, it's going to store in false since I'm not presenting that view from the beginning. Oh, and actually, sorry, forgot this. Now, instead of calling our view model, we are going to also, let's clean up our view model. So our view model is not going to need anymore the add product and product service dependencies, nor this method. Let's try running this. Now you see when we type add, the sheet gets presented. I can tap in cancel, and it dismisses the view. If I tap again here on the add, and I tap on one of these products, I'm missing switching the toggle. So let's must have added 9 products there. If I cancel, you will see that this is adding every one of these products. And when we add a product, we will also switch the value of the flag. Now, to have it in an animated way, we need to do it with an animation block. And let's also add our sound. So once again, as in the previous exercise, we're gonna have here a .mp3 file that's included in the project, and we're gonna play it every time we tap on the add product. Let's try running this again. Here it is. Let me add a pen. We have our sound. Let's try tapping again. Now you will see that after dismissing the sheet, both of these bar button items are not, seem to be not enabled. If I scroll down and bring these up, not this, the buttons activate. This only happens when you dismiss the view. Now my edit button, there we go. Let's refresh. So I have to scroll to kind of enable these buttons again. This is a known bug of SwiftUI. So to fix that behavior, the only thing we need to do is add an environment variable to our order view. It's going to be presentation mode. Let's run again. I'm adding a coffee table. And you'll see that my buttons are now active. They are block free. Although this one is appearing, if you remember our implementation in UI, if the quantity is 1, then we're not going to show it. Let's fix that. And let's try running in iPad. Now we still have our split view that we get. Let's switch the orientation. Let's try it in a product. And here we have again our navigation style 2 columns. So let's switch that. And there we have it, our full size screen collection view. You can also drag to dismiss. Let's add some products. Now, a few things worth of mentioning. My UI kit equivalent of this exercise, I was instantiating the AV player each time we were playing the sound. This is not recommended since there may not be enough time between the instantiation of the product with the URL and the playing of the sound. So sometimes when you tap on the product, the sound was not playing. If you initialize the player just with the initializer, then that problem is solved. Before you leave, one thing I forgot to add is our start index. Actually, you have to multiply by the number of items per row, and this is not I, but yes, start index. Now we do have all of our products. For those of you that have been watching WWDC 20, Apple announced that in iOS 14 we will have support for lazy instantiation with stacks, with lazy HStack and VStack, and we'll also have a lazy vgrid and hgrid. So everything that we had to do here with stack was just necessary for iOS 13. If you're using iOS 14 or the beta, which is the beta right now, as of this video, you won't have to worry about all of these items. Making grids in the future will be much easier. And this is pretty much it. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye.